Welcome to Ringsiders Wrestling. As always, I'm Callum McInnes, and today I'm joined by a Black and Brave trained wrestler, the Beast King himself, Chase Holliday. Thank you for joining us, Chase.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this since we talked, so I'm real excited.
Awesome. Yeah, it makes a change when the wrestler's excited to be on the show as well. Usually it's just us, but uh, But yeah, like I said in the intro, Black and Brave trained, and
Yes,
we've
sir.
spoken to a few Black and Brave talents in the past. We've had Marek Brave on before, who
Mhm.
obviously you'll be familiar with, one of your
Right.
trainers. And we had Ben Carter on last week. Uh,
Oh, nice.
and Ben was such a cool guy to speak to. So when I was reaching out to you and saw you were Black and Brave as well, I jumped at the chance because I love hearing about the training that went on at Black and Brave. Because to me, it sounds like it's one of the best schools in North America.
Yeah, it's to me, it's like one of my favorites. It was funny, is like a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people are actually aware that I'm a former Black and Brave student, except for like I know obviously like my real close friends that I travel around with. They obviously know, but like there was one time one of my friends, his name was Lane. I was like, yeah, man, I'm a black. I trained at Black and Brave, and he was like, whoa, really? And I was like, yeah, because I don't really like put it out there or anything.
Hmm.
I'm just like I absolutely love my training. I know. I just don't think people. It's nothing that like I talk about often, and not like in a as a downplay. It's just like I don't think about it. I was like, oh
Sure.
yeah, like I trained at Black and Brave. So like when people find out, they're like, you trained at Black and Brave? I'm like, oh yeah, like.
I know what you
But
mean. You don't want it to be all that you're known for, do you? Like you're
yeah,
making your own name. And uh,
yeah,
when we
that was the
spoke to
main
you,
thing. Like when I had started, like afterwards, I was like, I don't. I think it was maybe it was the school had been open for maybe 2 years at this point or something like that. I was the
yeah,
ninth class, and I was like, I don't want to be known as just like or get booked just as like, oh yeah, Black and Brave kid. So
yeah,
I would always like keep it real low, even to, and now it's just like a habit to where when people when I go back and forth with other wrestlers about training, I'm like, oh yeah, my trainer or whatever, and I just never say their name up until like unless people specifically ask me, oh, where did you train? And I'm like, oh, I trained at Black and Brave, and they're like, "Oh, whoa!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just don't want to. I just never wanted to be known as like, oh yeah, he's the Black and Brave kid. That's why we book him. Like, I wanted
yeah.
to be booked for my own things."
Of course, that makes sense. You're an independent wrestler. You're looking to make your own name, and one of the things I took away from the Marek interview was they'll give you all the tools that you need to be a successful independent wrestler, but
Absolutely
there's no opportunities handed out, and everyone works for everything they've got. So the fact that
right.
you're saying you don't want to just benefit off the name of being a Black and Brave wrestler, to me, that's the whole ethos of Black and Brave in general. Is you're making your own opportunities.
Right. No, absolutely. Like I said, starting it was like that was always my thing, and like I know, like I heard a couple things before, like I got into like wrestling, to where like people, just like how people can get heat and stuff from where they trained, and that was another
Yeah.
thing because I didn't want to start out and be like, I'm from Black and Brave, and then people be like, oh well, he's from that school, so he thinks he's better than everybody, and I'm like, no, I really don't. That just happened to be where I train. It's just like I loved like the whole 3 months that I was there. Like I loved. I always tell people like whenever they ask. I was telling about the program. I'm like, at the time I was also working like I was working a job because I mean I had to pay for my rent and everything while I was out in training. I'm originally from California, and so I had
Right.
moved all the way to Iowa so I can train there. And like basically we'd work out like 9 times in the span of like a week. So like some days I'd be working out doing 3 CrossFit classes in a day and go to work, and I'd be beat by the time I get home. And like everything they give us, like they teach us like everything that we need to know, like everything the basics, like, and if you ever wanted to learn anything, you just had to ask. Like there was never like they made sure to give us everything that we needed,
Yeah.
and then everything that like you wanted to learn afterwards. Like the thing that they told us is like we can't give you, like I know a lot of schools will give people like their gimmicks or like their first ideas of where to start and stuff like that. They were like, you will learn from experience. Like we can't give you these things like some people's characters or stuff like that is them times 11 or
Yeah.
whatever, or it's the complete opposite of what they are. Like we can't give that to you. That's you. Like you get everything else from experience. So that's like, and I've always been kind of like whether it comes to a job or anything, I'm always like, yeah, I'll figure it out when I get there. Like it's always like sink or
Yeah.
swim because that's the best way and the quickest way to learn. And so I'm a big sink or swim type of guy, and I just happen to learn how to get with it quick. So
wrestling's one of those things you can't really plan for anyway, especially as a
Right.
trainee. You never know how a crowd's going to react to you, let
Yeah.
alone how they're going to react to an entire character that you've come up with.
Yeah.
So your character always seems like it's an evolution. Would you think
Right.
your character's evolved from when you debuted to what it is now?
Oh man, absolutely. It's changed so much. Before I even like got into so I didn't start watching wrestling until like super late, until like maybe it was like 2008, 2009 when I first started like watching wrestling. Like actually,
Right.
like I always knew wrestling, and the only person I ever really knew and cared about was The Rock. So like I'd go over to my friend's house all the time, and he'd have like all the old wrestling games, and so
Yeah.
we would just make a bunch of characters. And then I'd be like, well, is The Rock on the game? That's all I cared about. So we use all the characters and we play with The Rock, and that was it. But it wasn't until like 2008 because I was getting like homeschooled my eighth grade year, and it's like summertime and it's Monday and like no new shows for a kid in like eighth grade is coming on a Monday night. And so like I'm flipping through channels, I'm trying to find something, and then like I came across Monday Night Raw, so I started watching Monday Night Raw, and I was like, oh okay, cool. Uh, and then of course Monday Night Raw was like, oh yeah, Tuesday night SmackDown or Tuesday night ECW, whatever, whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. So then I tuned in Tuesday, and I was Matt Hardy was like the first dude. I was like, that guy's cool. And then, of course, on Tuesday night, they're like, oh, yeah, Friday night SmackDown. And I started watching SmackDown. And then somewhere throughout the week, TNA came in. So I started watching wrestling Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. If they're like, I did all my research. I would hop on my computer. I would just be there for hours looking up like old pay-per-views. I would run down the card. I would watch the pay-per-view highlights. I just did all my own research. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm like 13 years old. I was like, I want to be a wrestler. And I just never changed. Like, that was it.
So would you say you've managed to catch up then? Like you say you didn't get into it until later, but it sounds like you've caught up in the last 12
Oh
years.
yeah, I definitely did a lot of like I'm still learning, and like even in wrestling, you're always learning something new. There's always going to be something like nobody actually truly ever knows anything, and that's just also in life in general.
Yeah.
Nobody has the answers, like especially in wrestling. Because I always remember when Seth told us in our training, he was like, I still learn new stuff every day. Like again, always has the answers. There's always different avenues to things. So like I did as much research as I could, and like in my head growing up, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a wrestle. Like I'm gonna go train at ROH, and then I'm gonna wrestle there for this amount of years, and then I'm gonna go over. I just thought it was so easy. I was like, and then I'm gonna go to WWE and whatever,
Oh,
whatever. And then I
geez.
started wrestling, and I was like, oh, this is completely different from what young Chase had in mind.
I'll be completely honest. When I was 16, I trained to be a wrestler. This is going back 14, 15 years.
hmm
Um, and I had that exact same plan in mind. I thought it was easy as you train, and then
Yeah,
I'll move to America somehow. I'll
yeah,
go to Ring of Honor. I'll go to Japan, and then I'll get signed by WWE. And I had this clear goal in my mind of like how it was going to go. In reality, I quit wrestling a year later because I couldn't hack it because it was so
hmm
hard. I was like, okay, I can't do this.
yeah,
So I completely get what you mean. And when you're younger, you just think it's so easy, but um, at least you're actually doing it though. Like you've wrestled for a place that I'd have classed as a bucket list promotion for me to wrestle at. That's IWA Mid South. Uh,
Oh yes.
that's a promotion I used to watch back in the day with like even when it was Seth as Tyler Black and Marek Brave.
Yeah.
And this is why when I was speaking to Marek, I was trying not to mark out because I used to watch him in IWA Mid South, and now
Right.
they're wrestling there. Like, how cool is that?
Right. No, yeah. So I remember uh, riding up shortly like after training. It was like maybe the next week or so afterwards, where we went to IWA, and it was I rode up. I think the first time we went we took two carloads from like our area that
Mhm.
were all Black and Brave kids because that's how many people were going. So we took two cars to go up to IWA, and I think maybe only like three or four people were actually booked, and the rest of us were trying to get booked. So the first time I didn't get booked, and I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever, whatever. Um, I went back a second time with Sage Kanan and Valentina Loca, and we didn't get booked again. I technically did security, but it was the third time that I went where it was like third time's the charm, and like I really wanted to work IWA because of people like obviously like Tyler and Merrick and AJ Styles, like a lot of my favorite wrestlers like had gone through there, and I was like, if I just wrestle here once, like that's it,
Yeah.
that's all I need. But then I got there the third time and I wrestled there for, weekly all 2017, that whole summer, and a good start of 2018 was like every week we were like going to IWA and we were just like weekly roster members. And I've wrestled there for 2 years now. Yeah, it's been a little over 2 years. I haven't been as of late, but my time there definitely attributes to who I would help. It helped me, like, allowed me a place to continue to try stuff and try new things and stuff like that. So it was definitely one of those areas where I can always be thankful for my time there, whether there was good or whether there was bad, but they always treated me well. Of
Yeah.
just like, it's always about, how we say, getting your reps in and stuff. So I was always very, very happy to like experience new things and try new things in that environment.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Like the fact that you've kind of got to follow your trainer's footsteps in a way. Like you've got to wrestle at the places they've wrestled. They've gone on to doing great things. With that being said, I mean, do you have any short-term goals that you're looking to tick off next? Like I know there's a pandemic going on at the moment,
Oh
and it's
man.
hard to predict what's going to happen. But when wrestling does open back up again, what does Chase Holliday want to do next?
Oh man, that's a good question because that is the thing that I think about often, especially with the pandemic going on. I try to like right now my current goal is like, because my goals have definitely changed from like when I first started wrestling, where I was like, I just want to go to the WWE and nothing else matters. And now, like after so much stuff, I'm just like, yeah, like I want to go to. I mean, I've always wanted to go to Japan, so like wrestling in Japan. If I just wrestled in Japan, like that's definitely one. Wrestling in the UK is definitely like on my list. Like I just want to be able to, you know, I enjoy traveling, and so I
Yeah.
enjoy traveling the world. So like I love exploring new places and going like that. Like even places. Last weekend, I went to a part of Tennessee that I hadn't been to because it was me, Calvin Tankman, and Hoodfoot, and we had traveled to one of Tankman's bookings, and we had gone out and it was like Cedarville, Tennessee, and I had never been there. Like I've been to Tennessee, I've been to different parts of Tennessee, but not that part. But that part was like apparently like a tourist city, so we just had a whole bunch of fun before the show. But like being able to travel and do what I love and express my art and what I experience and share it with people in other parts of the world, like
Mm.
that's what I look forward to. Like if we're talking specifically like promotions, I've always looked at AEW. Uh, I'm all about like platforms to increase that because like the greater that I can increase my platform and reach out to people, hopefully I can leave wrestling a better place than the way we found it, as we should. Like anytime we find anything, the world, wrestling, whatever you get into, we got to leave it better than what we found it, so it's easier for the people after us. That's the major thing. So like AEW is a major platform, Black Label Pro is a major platform, GCW is a major platform. Like all these places, like I've been to SUP and I love wrestling for SUP. I just love to wrestle for them on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Just like those are like what I have in mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great mentality that you've got, like leaving the world in a better place, whatever you're doing. And it especially applies to wrestling, which can be great at times. It can be the worst at times. Like it's
Right.
depends which day it is. But I think if everyone's got that mentality of just leaving it better than they found it, that's obviously a positive. And I think that is how it's going at the moment. It seems like a lot of independent wrestlers have that mentality where they're looking for that platform, but as you said, WWE isn't the be all and end all anymore. It's not like
Right.
you have to go to WWE to be classed as successful. There's
Right.
some independents now which are like, they're not, well, no one's ever going to be at the level of WWE,
Right.
but they're still big names. They're still big companies, and some
Right.
people have really good careers in those companies. And you
Right.
mentioned like AEW, GCW, and stuff are places you want to work. Those are all doing incredible things right now. And
Right.
GCW, to me, is like the biggest independent in the world. It,
Right.
I could. That's somewhere I personally could, after doing some research, watching you work, and seeing whatever I could. That's somewhere I could see you fitting in really well, GCW.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you say you're already friends with Calvin Tankman. He's been having a bit of a good run there recently.
Oh yeah, me and Tankman have known each other maybe for about a year and a half, 2 years. We've known each other for it feels like a lot longer. Like we've known each other for a long time, basically since I've started wrestling. But to the point to where we met up at the last GCW show. Like I had stopped by and I had seen him, and I live now in Indiana,
Yeah,
and I've lived here for about a year and a half. And but when I first started, I lived like how I mentioned in Iowa and Illinois. And when I went to see him, and I was like, "Oh, hey, man," he was like, "Chase, you should know Indiana by now. You've lived here for 2 years." And I'm like, "I have not lived here for 2 years, Tank." I was like, "I've technically only lived here for a year, maybe 4 or 5 months." And he was like, "Oh, well, I've just known you for so long that it just feels like that. Like we ride together. I always make sure to mess with him. He's a real good dude. I get real excited whenever I see he's got new stuff coming up. Like
yeah,
he's got the MLW coming up. He's getting all these opportunities at GCW. He's getting opportunities at the collective coming up, like
yeah.
Bloodsport for the culture, like all that stuff. I get real excited for my friends when I see stuff like that.
It because he kind of came out of nowhere. Like it, well, as a fan anyway. Like watching GCW, um, I usually buy all of the pay-per-views just to watch because I absolutely love it. And then Calvin Tankman pops up, and I'm like, "Who's this dude?" And
Hmm.
he's like a hoss, but he's also quite agile, and
Yeah,
he can do
he'll
everything.
surprise you. He's a big athletic dude. Like it's
Yeah,
funny because like the people in Indiana, like we've known for forever. We're like, hey, Tankman, like he's good. Like he just needs somewhere where people can see him. And the second that he got like the eyes on him when he did the GCW, everybody was like, oh, Calvin Tankman, Calvin Tankman. It's like we've been known he's been this good. Like
yeah.
you guys are catching him as he's only getting better. Like it's only up for here for him. And like you guys are just happen like to get on, but like just to know him from beforehand, before when everybody was like, oh yeah, we got to get him now, to like where he is now. Like it's always just fills me with much joy.
Oh, speaking of like, you want to travel the world and stuff, and hopefully get to the UK when the world opens up again. Is there any promotions in the UK that you'd want to wrestle for? Because we've kind of got like I don't know where it came from. It kind of happened overnight. We've got a good wrestling scene now. We never used to.
Hmm.
We used to have like one company in the whole of the country,
Right.
and it's like we've got so many companies now. And when you mentioned coming over to the UK, I mean, that would be awesome. But is there any companies you have in mind that you'd want to wrestle for?
The first one that normally always pops into mind is Progress.
Yeah,
I know there's Rev Pro UK over there.
yeah,
Um, there was another one that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, because at one point I was looking for uh, after my first year in Indy, my plan was I was gonna move back to California because I wanted to wrestle over on the West Coast
yeah,
and have that get going. So that's where I was at the first half of this year. I was like, oh, I'll move back to California. I'll wrestle on the West Coast, get a building there, and then I wanted to move. Like I wanted to eventually build enough money and stuff so I could move to the UK and train and learn over there. Just because
right.
I was like, what other way to continue to be an independent wrestler and to continue to learn and like expand my fan base and everything about me than to go to these different places? Like, it's hard enough as it is for us as, wrestlers from the Midwest to get to the West Coast as it is vice versa. Like,
Yeah,
it's easier for Midwest to go over to the East Coast and stuff like that and to get to Canada than it is for the West Coast people. So I was like, I don't want to have to wait X amount of years before I can wrestle over on the West Coast, especially because one, I'm from there, and two, my family has never seen me wrestle live because it's so far away. So I was
right.
like, well, if I get that out there, I can I can find some training over there, get some new experience, learn some new things, and then take what I learned from there and then, go to wherever I want to go next. And then the world ended and COVID happened, so it kind
Yeah,
of threw
kind of.
threw a lot of things off. And so I came back to Indiana, which I'm still very thankful and happy for because I love it here. It's helped me grown more as like a character and as a wrestler and as a person in wrestling. Like there's one thing that I've said before to my friends is like West Coast raised, Midwest made. Like
Right.
that's what like how I take me as like a wrestler. Like I was born and raised on the West Coast, and that's who I am. Like as a person that I brought over here, but like the Midwest helped make me who I am as a wrestler. And I'm very appreciative and thankful for that because I just want to be able to be the best version of myself that I can put out to other people. Like wrestling is full of everybody's an artist, and everybody wants to display their art and their illustrations to the world. And we all obviously want to be the best versions of our illustrations and our art. And I definitely credit being in the Midwest and being around the people that I'm around to that. So I'm very thankful for being where I am, and I love it here very much.
Yeah. So you say you're in Indiana at the moment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We had the chance to go to Indiana a couple of years ago. We went to All In Chicago. Stayed in Indiana for a week. It was honestly the greatest place I've ever been in my life. I love Indiana. I would live there if I could. It was so good. See, I can see why you're happy being back in Indiana.
Right.
But also as like a central place to, as a wrestler, that's a pretty good place because there's so many good promotions nearby which you can start branching out to. Like, I believe Freelance and Black Label will be pretty close to you. Warrior.
Oh yeah, yeah. What is it? So Warrior and Freelance and AEW all run out of Chicago, which is 3 hours from where I'm at. Black Label doesn't technically run in Chicago, which is so like they run like in South Bend, which is like the outside of Chicago, but like still in Indiana because Chicago's in Illinois. So that's like 2.5 hours. So like, what else is there? From where I live right now, IWA is about an hour and a half. My home promotion, Paradigm Pro Wrestling, which I'm wrestling for next week, they're also about like an hour and a half. Ohio is like 2 to 3 hours. I really only go to Ohio for Unsanctioned Pro. They're great over there. They also have a show next week. We're actually double heading. We have Paradigm Friday on the 25th, and then Unsanctioned on the 26th, and they're both streaming on IWTV.
Awesome.
So that's gonna be great. Yeah. What else is here? Like New Jersey. New Jersey's like 12 hours. Pittsburgh is like 6 hours. Philadelphia is 12. Like, and all these places are like so much easier to get to living in Indiana than when I was living in Iowa, because from Indiana to Iowa, Illinois is like 6 hours. So when I was living out there, I'd have to drive 6 hours to get to Indiana, and then the other X amount of hours to get anywhere else. So it was always like, oh man, we got an 8 hour drive. It's like if we just lived in Indy, it would only be 2 hours. Like,
dude,
so
this is why you still need to do that plan of moving to the UK, because you never need to drive for more than 4 hours. Like if you're in London and you drive for 4 hours, you're not even in England anymore.
Oh man,
not the country.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you can get to from the bottom of the country all the way to Scotland in 5 hours, I think. So
that's great.
You'd save a bit of money on expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Shug D, who's a person that I look up to and I appreciate, and I can always count on whenever I need anything. He went to the UK and did his UK tour, and even bought a house, I believe, or he bought land or something over there. And he Riptide. That's one of the other promotions I was thinking. Riptide is a place I want to go to, and he built his brand over there and continued to build his craft and get better, and like fine wine, only got better with age and in time and everything, and was able to bring it back over to America and show like how much he's worth, because people need to appreciate and realize how good Suge really is. And so, and they say you never really know what you have till it's gone.
Yeah.
And so when America lost Suge and he came back, everybody was like, oh, and it was like, yeah, he's internationally traveled, like he's all around Europe, like he's the man.
He did so well for himself. He was wrestling for so many companies in the UK. I actually didn't know he was American at first. I thought he was British, and because he was everywhere, I just thought, oh right, he must be from here. And then I read his Twitter, and it was like, from America, and I was like, what? And then he left the UK, and obviously has gone on to like have appearances in AEW, and as of last week, he was on Raw Underground in the crowd.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that Shug? And it was. So yeah, he's done amazing by having that little that little tour, got that experience under his belt. And it sounds like that's what your plan is, though. You want to travel the world a bit. You want to get those experiences. Absolutely. You want to get your name out there, build your brand, your platform, and see where that takes you.
Right. That's like current, especially Japan is always like, I grew up watching a lot of like anime and stuff as a kid. So like
Yeah.
I always loved comic books and stuff like that. So like when I really started to get into like Japan and like their wrestling, like I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with it even more the more I got into like the old All Japan and the four pillars of
Yeah.
Kabashi, Masawa, Taue. Oh man, why am I spacing? I know all of them too, but you know what I mean, right? And
I
so
do.
like I fell in love with like how they treat it as like because every different part of the world has like a different approach towards like wrestling.
Yeah.
So like Japan's wrestling is very much like it is the like the fight, the athletic of like this is a fight and this is how we present it. Like this is how we these are athletes, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so like I fell in love with that because I was like this is it. You know, America, we have our we're all about our stories, which I also love. Like I
Yeah.
mean, Japan is also not to discredit any of their stories, so their stories are also fantastic. But like ours is very much like I guess I want to say soap opera in a sense,
Yeah.
you know? Like and I love that too. Like I love wrestling for all it is as a whole. Like when it's good, it's good. Like wrestling itself I love. Like it's just it's obviously one of my favorite things, or else I wouldn't be doing it. But yeah, that's
There's nothing cooler than wrestling, and I think
right.
it's hard to explain that to like a non-wrestling fan when you're trying to say like, look, my favorite thing is watching people in spandex and baby oil beat each other
Yeah,
up and do have these crazy stories, and
right.
they're like, what? Why do you watch it? And it's like you can't
You just have
explain
to you have
why
to
it's good.
experience.
It just is.
Yeah, like I always try to tell my friends who don't really watch. I'm like, I guarantee you, there is something for you. Like, there's without a doubt. Like, I remember one of my friends back home who does watch wrestling. We were talking about a wrestler, and then he was more of a comedy wrestler, and I showed it to another one of our friends, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like that." And then I showed him like some of the stuff that I watched, like some of the old Japan stuff, and he was like, "That I like that." And I was like, "I
Yeah.
guarantee you, I can like, there's something for everybody in wrestling." I was like, "You can't say that about every other like sport. Like, you can't say that about football. You can't say that
No,
about
can.
soccer. You can't say that about basketball or anything else. Like with wrestling, there's literally something for everybody. To like, that's it.
Yeah, that's what makes wrestling so cool, isn't it? Like you said,
Yeah,
there's something for everybody, and it's like having like 100 different flavors of ice cream. There's going to be one that you like,
yeah,
and there's one for everybody.
right,
And I just I always try and explain it to people like it's wrestling is a sport, but it's
yeah,
also cinema and
yeah,
it's theater and everything in between. And it's like you said as well, the Japan does have the stories, and so
hmm
does America, but it's almost like it's the same stories told differently. And
yeah,
it
yeah,
that's the only way I can ever try and explain it to people.
right.
But it's just the coolest thing. And you can tell clearly, like just by the way you were talking about it, then you're very passionate about wrestling, and it's
Yeah,
always cool to talk to people, especially wrestlers who you can tell they haven't lost that side of them that's still a fan. And
mm,
you've always got to be a fan of wrestling still, I think, if you're doing it, because
right.
I think the minute you stop becoming being a fan of it, it's just not gonna work.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like I love I can't it's harder for me to watch wrestling on TV nowadays, mainly because I just don't have a lot of time and I just
Yeah.
am very tired. So, but like when I'm at shows, I love watching like my friends and just watching good matches in general. Like if I'm there, I'm gonna get excited for it. Like you can't. There's nothing like a pro wrestling like live show experience. Uh, that's one of the things, and like I'm never ashamed to be like, yeah, this is one of my favorite wrestlers. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, oh yeah, ACH is one of my favorite wrestlers. Like Eddie Kingston is one of my favorite wrestlers. Like this person or this person. Like I love wrestling, and like there's so many people that like I relate to or that like I am like pulled to for various different aspects, and it's great. And like I don't think people should be like ashamed of that. I don't know why. I still don't understand the concept where people are like, oh, don't be. They're like, don't be a mark or whatever, whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of how I got here. Is like
Yeah.
I was a fan who wanted to be a wrestler, and now I'm here. Like, how are you gonna not enjoy your craft? Like, that's what if we don't enjoy our craft and we can't express our like joy and what we want people to feel through what we do, then how are they gonna know? Like, how are they going to enjoy what we put out there? Like, you're
Sure.
not going to get, like, if I go out there and I just am feeling real bad and I just don't like what I'm doing, the fans are going to feel that.
Yeah.
Like, but if they can tell that I'm having a good time and that I'm really into it, like, that energy is going to, like, it'll
It
get to one
tackles.
person and it's
Yeah.
infectious, and it'll get to the next person and the next person and the next person. And now it's just a mass widespread of this energy just because they're focused on me and they can feel and tell, like, what I am feeling. And that's incredible. Like, it's a weird, like, mental, like, energy that you just send through everybody
Yes.
else, and everybody else picks up on it, and that everybody can feel it. And it's really crazy how that can resonate through so many people, you know. So
Yeah, I completely get that. Like, you can always tell when there's a performance which is, for lack of a better term, being phoned in, because you don't feel it, but when you know that wrestler is enjoying that match, that story, they're feeling it, you feel it too, and
right,
everybody else does. And it's one of the reasons I miss crowds so much in wrestling at the moment is
mm,
the atmosphere, which the wrestlers get that instant reaction from something
right,
done. They know they're doing something good, and it goes back and forth between the fans and the wrestlers. So that's
right,
selfishly one of the reasons I can't wait for crowds to come back properly in
yeah,
wrestling. I'm sure you can too. It must be like you said that you've got a show coming up next week. I'm sure it'll be somewhat of a
yes.
socially distanced show, but
Yes, all shows that have been running recently, especially in the state of Indiana, they've capped capacity. Like, most places are doing like 25% capacity, and they're doing like ticket bundles to where, like, if you want to sit next to somebody, you guys simply it's like something where you guys have to buy tickets at the same time, or like a bundle of tickets. That way you get your seats together, and all, like, hand sanitizers, like, provided, masks can be provided, masks are required, which everybody should have at this point anyway. Uh, what else? Like, everybody's like, there's the 6 feet rule, and, like, there's so many standards, and it's such, like, it feels good to see everybody applying those. Especially, like I said, my home promotion Paradigm does that, where they're always, like, making sure, like, hey, these are our guidelines. They tweet it like at least 2-3 times a week. These
yeah,
are our guidelines for the show coming up. This, and that. Whatever, whatever. We're not selling tickets at the door. Like, it's buy online only or whatever like that. So, and and you can watch it if you can't make it. You can watch it, live stream it on IWTV, and I'm very much looking forward to that next Friday. I have my triple threat match for my MidwestTerritory.com championship chain with Lee Moriarty and Cole Radrick, and I
awesome.
know it's just going to be, yeah, that one's going to be a fun one. I'm very excited for it.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I was going to say, before we wrap things up, I want to know about the shows that you've got coming up, because the last maybe 6 months of interviews we've done, I always used to ask people, "Can you plug the shows you've got coming up?" But the
Mm-hmm.
last 6 months of interviews, they've been like, "Well, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know when I'm next wrestling." So you're actually the
yeah,
first person who I can ask, and you can tell me when you're next wrestling. So
yeah. No,
you've got a show coming up next Friday.
yes, sir. Next Friday it is. I want to say the exact date because like I said, they're double heading with Unsanctioned. But the Friday is the 25th, and then Saturday is the 26th for Unsanctioned Pro. Unsanctioned, I'm just going to hang out just because they're good people and we've talked about it. And if anything opens up, they said we'll see what happens, which is fine. I just have friends on the show, and I'm going to be up basically over there anyway, and it's not far from my place. And they're running in the same venue that Paradigm runs out of, just because their old venue that they originally had, something happened, so they had to relocate. But the 25th, Paradigm Pro Wrestling, it is me, Lee Moriarty, and Cole Radrick for my MidwestTerritory.com championship chain. You can find it on IW.TV. And then after that, that following Saturday is Unsanctioned, where you can watch a bunch of good wrestling regardless. Trying to think if I have anything off the top of my head after that. Oh, the Collective. I will be wrestling at the Collective
Oh,
in
really?
October. Yes, I will be on the Paradigm show. So I'm running the real late boy. So it's Paradigm, uh, October. I believe that Sunday is the 11th, and it's at like 11:59 p.m. So we're basically a midnight show. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just trying to work out what time that'll be in the UK, because we've just been given the Collective bundle from Fight TV to review.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be watching the Collective.
Oh,
If
nice.
you're
Heck
doing,
yeah.
if you're doing a midnight show, I'm gonna guess that'll be like early morning, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock here. So I might actually get to see that. That would be cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But to find the show, like you've just been saying, I'll leave the link in the description for IWTV. But yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad I can finally speak to someone again who's got an upcoming show. Hopefully that's a sign that wrestling is slowly but surely coming back, responsibly, socially distanced. That's always good to hear.
Yes.
But Chase, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and like I said to you pre-record, I usually do shorter episodes because I like to open it up for another one down the line. You're definitely someone I'd like to have back on again in the future.
Yeah, I would love to do this again.
Just because you've clearly got a plan of what you want to do. Like you want to travel the world, you want to do a lot of different things. It'd be great to catch up again in a few months and see what it is that you're actually doing.
Absolutely, I would love that.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I've been Callum. This is Ringsiders Wrestling. We'll see you soon.